All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or falsely accuse his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister because Allah is love. Act 4, all members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and partial of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5, this organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws of the Constitution, of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6, with us all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained noble Drew Ali the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7, all members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, home office of Noble Drew Ali, home office, Chicago, Illinois, U.S.A. Islam. Brother Colbay, would you please read our writs?
Islam, Grand Sheikh. Arise, give perfect praise to the great God Allah. Rise, give honors to the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Rise, give honors to the forerunner, Marcus Messiah Garvey. Rise, give honors to all ills and bays, all Muslims on the call and on the planet, and everything Moorish. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Drew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam, this is instructions from your prophet Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefather divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of times are drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I Noble Drew Ali. And that is why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear, lest they'll be confined of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. To be proclaimed in every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation. They claim that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds, the ones that pay their divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I need finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Sunday school, Muslims.
Islam and gratitude, brother. Islam. Sister Lachey L, would you please read our additional laws?
Islam. I rise and give all praise to the great Father God Allah. I give honors to the holy and divine prophet Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to the forerunner, Marcus Messiah Garvey. I give honors to all faithful Muslims on the call and all Muslims around the world. A questionnaire and additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1, Grand Sheiks and governors and heads of all temples, all business, each said temple must be approved by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acted upon by any members, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the prophet or the Grand Sheik. Act 2. All members are to attend their adept meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish uplifting funds, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I would have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we're to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school. And the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire. And let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple, being entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God, Allah. Islam. Peace and love. Happy Sunday School, Muslims.
Islam, sister, great gratitude. We're going to go ahead and read the divine warning now, and then we'll open up. We're going to be just going over a few questions from our questionnaire, and then we'll open up the floor to questions in general. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and the principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind, to their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine right as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights, unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government, and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know the law, in the city hall, and among the officials in your government, and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. For they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger. The same as the word colored deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So, there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, disease, etc. And I, the prophet, do hear and believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with the divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses, but I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the Prophet. All right, Islam Moors. Let's go ahead and get started. We're just going to go over a few questions today from the questionnaire. I think this will provide us all with a good, thorough understanding of what the prophet is revealing to us as far as our true nature and who we are as a people. All right. There's a reason why there's people who are willing to pay Asiatics to promote filth, to to sell an image of us being criminals and to act like it's cool to be dumb. There's a reason why. All right. Now, when we go into our questionnaire, it says in question 14, why are we Moorish Americans? Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. For what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded? For the uplifting of fallen humanity. How did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? By teaching them to be themselves. And this is a tall task because the truth about who we are has been hidden. We're going to show that today, though. Well, you can actually, by realigning yourself with your divine prophet and coming into our religion, which it says, what is our religion? Islamism. Then it says, is that a new or is that the old time religion? And it says old time religion. Right? So by coming into this, you can relink yourself back into who your ancestors truly are, right? Which is that this is something that's ancient. Remember, the prophet said Islamism is that old time religion. So it's even older than what the prophet Muhammad and the Persians or the Arabians have been practicing. This is ancient and divine. Everything about it that our prophet revealed to us. And remember, when it says in question 21, how old is our flag? It says 10,000. It is over 10,000 years old. All of this is important and key, Moors. It's all key to connecting the dots to realize who we truly are as Moorish Americans. Okay, so remember, it's saying that our flag is over 10,000 years old. Islamism is that old time religion, meaning that no one else can tell us how to be Muslims, as we have a divine prophet and he's returning us to something that is ancient. It's that old time religion. And he's uplifting us by teaching us to be ourselves, returning who we truly are, and now learning how to be ourselves, our true nature. And so since we descend from the creators of civilization, which we're going to show today, and this can be traced through history, right? This can be traced through history. Since he returned to us who we truly are, now he has to teach us how to be ourselves so that we can be those who are creators, who created mathematics, who created science and all the learnings, all of the arts. We created all of that. So now by teaching us to be ourselves, we will be able to do that again. Just by coming back into our true nature. Okay? And so remember, so that flag, he said, is over 10,000 years old. This is key too, because we're going to have to talk about a few things so that we can actually trace ourselves through history. So when you go to question 31 and through 33, it says, what is the modern name for the Moabites? Moroccans. Where is the Moroccan Empire? Northwest Amexem. And in 33, what is the modern name for Amexem? Africa. So that's being revealed to us. This modern name for Amexem is Africa. So this is something that is ancient. It's being given to us that nobody else says. Nowhere else are you going to find this name Amexem. Right? Nowhere. Why? Because what the prophet is returning to us is truly ancient for real. We're going to show this. So when it's saying the Moroccan Empire right now, Because it's saying, where is it? It's in northwest Amexem. The Moroccan Empire is in northwest Amexem. We're going to show where that is. And then the modern name for Amexem is Africa. So the modern name for Africa, for Amexem, is Africa, right? So the prophet, and he's saying that that flag's over 10,000 years old. So he's telling us something, right? He's returning a history to us which has been hidden, which has been covered up, which is seen as a myth nowadays. It's not even seen as containing any facts or truth. But this is what the prophet returned to us, right? Those mythological people that predate modern civilization. So going into chapter 47 of our Quran, Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa, we're learning that the inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. So we'll learn it. Oh, Africa is, this is where humans came from, and then they spread out to different parts of the world. But the prophet's telling us something that nobody else is saying. That, hey, the inhabitants of Africa actually went into Africa from Canaan. Even old man Cush and his family, they were the first inhabitants of Africa. They came from Canaan. So old Canaan is the seat of civilization. This is being taught to us. Now, pay attention, because I want you to remember these things that we're going over, because we're going to show how this can be traced throughout history without a doubt or contradiction. But if you can't stand on that solid rock of salvation, meaning you know who you are, you know that your prophet is real, people will tell you anything. So when the prophet is telling us that the first true and divine name of Africa is Amexem, he's giving us a term that is pre-flood, antediluvian, right? Antediluvian, meaning of or belonging to the time before the biblical flood. And that biblical flood, some people might think, oh, the Bible, no, that's not written. No, there was a cataclysm that happened. And so the prophet is connecting us to the time before this great cataclysm. Okay? And so when we go to look at the early human civilizations, what's the oldest civilizations that we're giving credit for? And when we say old, we're talking about after the flood. Excuse me. Pardon. So we're talking about after the flood, because if you're looking at classical history, mainstream history, that's all that the Europeans are going to give humanity credit for, is what happened, what they could date after the flood that happened. So this flood that you might have thought that this was just the story of Noah in the Bible, something actually happened thousands of years ago. So the Europeans looking at the civilizations that they could see after that flood. All right, after this cataclysm that took place. So we're looking at the oldest civilizations, at least what they give credit to. You're looking at Mesopotamia, which is in the Middle East in the Fertile Crescent, and it's very close to Canaan. Canaan will be like over there where they're starting a war right now, right? The place they call Israel now, like in the West Bank and Gaza, it's in that area. Also included part of Syria, so it was Palestine and Syria. We'll pull it up on a map though, so this makes sense. But the oldest civilization they're gonna say occurred in that area, Mesopotamia, which included modern day Iraq, Kuwait, and Syria. Remember, Syria also would have been considered part of Canaan, the birthplace of civilization, right? So here, that's where you're going to have architecture, astronomy, mathematics, law, agriculture, literacy, right? The oldest form of writing in the world, which they would say is cuneiform. Cuneiform's a writing system first used 3400 BC. It's the oldest form of writing in the world, first appearing earlier than Egyptian hieroglyphics. So the prophet is saying, hey, our ancestors came from here and then went into Africa and throughout Africa started populating that place. Right? This is a secret because nobody else is going to connect you to that, especially not us over here in North America. They act like, you know, we don't really have an origin except for slavery. But so it's the earliest urban civilization, meaning you had cities that had thousands of people living in it, right? And then they had advanced, systems, like they had mathematics, they had law, they had all that. Then they're gonna say ancient Egypt, 3100 BC, and you can go on and on. Ancient India, ancient China, even over here in the Americas, ancient Peru, right? So that's just an example. But going back to that cradle of civilization once more, and Canaan also, Canaan would have been close since the area it was in the Middle East is another example. Looking at the Encyclopedia Britannica, this area right here where it says, with the area that's bordering the Mediterranean Sea, this green part, even going up here to where it says Haran, because this would be Syria. All right. So all of that, going down to where you had a Dead Sea, if y'all can see this map, that would have been Canaan. So you see how it could have spread out. Okay, you got Mesopotamia, then down here up, you got Egypt, right? They forming everything around the rivers, around the river Nile. Now the prophet told us something about the river Nile in chapter 47. He didn't speak about the Euphrates being man-made, but he told us something about the river Nile, which no one else told us. He said the river Nile was dredged and made by the ancient pharaohs of Egypt in order to trade with the surrounding kingdoms. Also, the Niger River was dredged by the great pharaoh of Egypt in those ancient days for trade, and it extended eastward from the river Nile westward across the great Atlantic. It was used for trade and transportation. So the prophet's filling in the blanks. The European is not going to tell us that because actually they don't know. So the prophet's letting it be known that, yeah, our ancestors created this Nile River. They created these oases and these areas, and they created these rivers for trade, right? So that's being brought back to us so that we have an understanding of the capacity that our ancestors had, the capabilities, right? Islam, brother Kobe, I see you. I yield the floor.
Islam Grand Sheikh, I rise give her praise to the great God Allah, Prophet Noble Jew Allah. I just wanted to camel back on that. Even in the area with that map, if you can pull it a little bit back and look to the look more to the east, and if you know about Italy, Italy and Spain during that time of like say 7-Eleven and even before then was a wasteland. It was terrible. Like they had no irrigation or sewage. We brought that to that area when we came over there as well. And then also I can remember when I was in 6th grade, I had a social studies class. There was a big European lady, she kind of old, real heavy set, used to wear like, we used to always laugh, but she used to wear like we say she used to wear drapes, but she wear like kind of like moo type outfits type on. But she used to always talk to us about the Phoenicians. Now, my junior high was like 70% European, 30%, you know what I'm saying, us. And they're like, when she's talking, she like looking at us like, you idiots. Like, I can't really tell you, but you're the Venetians. Like, even though, like, and she would always say, the book was written, there's an author and it's a photographer and it's this that writes these and it's somebody painting these. But if you look at the story, you look at the area that you're in, and the area that we were looking at and we're studying, and that's all she was saying. She would go into the Venetians and the Bronze Age, and pretty much you're looking at the book. So of course you're just looking at like a darker European and like a lighter European, but she like actually trying to like let you know even then, like, hey, that's you. Islam, I yield the floor, but just I was looking at that area and that map. She was really going through that map way back in '91, and like it kind of like I'm looking at that map like okay, and she was breaking all that down. Islam, I yield the floor.
Islam, brother, and I'm glad you shared that because what you're talking about with like Italy and Spain being wastelands when the Moors went there later on, right, in 700, right, from 711 to 1492, with them ruling that area, they made everything flourish. Everything. Because we still had not fallen. We still had high civilization. And so they were able to come there and make that area flourish just by being there. right? And that, that's powerful. But once again, if you don't know who you are, you don't know how this affects you. Just like you said with the teacher, speaking to the class, how will we know this stuff, right? No, nobody knew it, right? Our parents couldn't teach it to us. But then going back here again with Canaan. So I want you to see that map again where it's showing Mesopotamia, right? You see all of this. This is what they called the Fertile Crescent. They would tell you this if you're paying attention, like in elementary school, that this was the cradle of civilization. The prophet is placing us here, saying this is where our ancestors came from. And then you look here in modern day Palestine, which they're going to call Palestine Israel, right? But Palestine and Syria, that was Canaan. And so you see it extended off into that Fertile Crescent. This was this is where civilization was created. And it was our ancestors that did it. The prophet tied us into that. That's also why we don't want to go away from the prophet when, other people were saying stuff and saying, oh, all of that stuff was over here. Well, there may be some truth to that, but also it may be because we named the regions over here after over there. We don't want to go away from the prophet when the prophet is actually physically connecting us to what actually took place in this world. And after these cataclysms that happened, right? Look like the internet's messing up, but I want to connect us back into this. So we don't want to go away from the prophet, right? So the cradle of civilization, this is what the prophet tied us back into. And if we want to see some dates on here, it's well, you see here where it says Western Asia, 10,000 BC. Western Asia would have been right over there in Canaan, where we was at. I don't know why the internet's not working right now, but I was trying to pull it up because they had some dates on here for ancient Canaan where it's saying like they were having cities and agriculture and towns, with over 10,000 thousands of people living there up to 8,000 years ago, where it's verifiable, right? So there's nothing anybody could do to take away from that. And we have some examples here. This stuff just disappeared, but just going back to Canaan, the human habitation of coastal Canaan, and then they're giving you these different periods, right? But they're saying where they actually had settled communities, meaning towns, villages, with law, agricultural way of life, existed at the site of Jericho, 8,000 BCE, which would be over 10,000 years ago. Okay? And so that's what the prophet reconnected us back to. We do not go against the prophet, no matter what. So remember that 8,000 BC, they say BCE now. 8,000 BCE, we had towns and cities in Canaan, ancient Canaan. And then our ancestors, what did the prophet say? Our ancestors began to spread out into Africa, into these other regions of the world. Let's go back to chapter 47. So going back here, remember old man Cush, right? The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Going to verse 3, his father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem. Now here, the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, right? So Ethiopia meant the dividing of the land between the father and the son, because Ethiopia, he's telling you that name originally meant a demarcation line, right? Some people try to apply the word to the whole continent or to a whole region, but he's saying this was a dividing line, the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa. So the prophet is giving us an ancient name. Predates all, nobody else knows this. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. So after we came from Canaan, then the other Asiatics in that region came in, throughout Africa, began to settle and inhabit that area. Then the prophet reveals more in saying that the Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, right? They were the founders and they are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. So pulling that map back up one more time, we're given a period of time and an understanding of a movement that took place amongst the people. Now remember, we placing ancient Canaanite civilizations back over 10,000 years. So when he's saying the Amorites, right there, Hittite brethren, you can actually see those names on this map. They all joined us later as we began to spread out throughout Africa. But then the prophet is letting us know that the dominions of Africa extended farther than what anyone else would know. And he's given us that true name, the divine name, the first true and divine name, which is Amexem. That's for us to know and everyone else to find out. Okay? So their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa across the great Atlantis, even into the present North, South, and Central America. And also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake, which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. So the prophet is saying that our ancestors, as they spread, over 10,000 years ago, went out from Canaan, spread out throughout Africa, and then throughout the Americas, right? Central South America, Mexico, and the Atlantis Islands, and that they began this migration before the great earthquake, which caused the Atlantic Ocean, meaning they came over here before the great flood, right? So he's establishing this dominion that we have and also how long we've been in these areas. And so it's giving us a new understanding on why when you go to Mexico, believe it or not, there are Mexicans that look like the people that's on this call, have, curly hair. I mean, like really tight curls, dark skin, what you would call African features, for real, with afros and everything. And they are Mexican. And then, I mean, you're not going to be shocked when you see it like somewhere like Jamaica, but it's like that all throughout Central and South America, and especially the Caribbean. Okay. So what the prophet is letting us know is that this didn't just occur because of what the Europeans telling us through the slave trade. He's letting us know that this happened, this migration took place before that great earthquake, which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. And it was our ancestors coming over here, establishing our dominion, pushing our dominion out. Okay. And so remember, we're saying that in our Quran questionnaire, how did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? By teaching them to be themselves. So he's teaching us to be ourselves. He's revealing our true nature to us, showing us what we can do, because our ancestors created the Nile River and the Niger River for trade. These great rivers that everyone else will tell you, this is natural. This was just created by nature. It's just here. We don't know why it's here. No, the prophet let us know it's man-made. We created it, and we used it for trade and transportation. And then going back to verse 9 in chapter 47, according to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation.
Bro, AD, Miami, Florida.
From the holy land of Canaan.
Join the meeting.
So there's no doubt or contradiction about who we are or who we were. Why? Because what your forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction. And there's no one who's able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his powers extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. Once again, doesn't matter how far we've fallen, how much we've gotten away from this, we still are who our forefathers were without a doubt or contradiction. And nobody could change that. People can try to cover it up, They can hide it, which we're going to show. They've been covering it up and hiding it for a long time, but they can't change it. That means that who our ancestors were and what they were capable of doing, we're capable of doing those things and even greater. Okay, and then for us, it's extremely important to understand because these holy and divine laws are from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America. This is real for us. You have to know this is a holy and divine prophet who brought us holy and divine laws and returned our history to us out of love, out of divine love, so that we can begin to uplift ourselves, because we're speaking about uplift and fallen humanity. That starts with ourselves. So he has to teach us who we are. And if we don't hold to it, you better trust that nobody else is going to do this for us. No one is going to come and set you straight and show and teach you who you are and set you up to be the leaders of the world. Why would they do that? Right? So we have to hold to it. As it says in verse 13, these laws are to be strictly preserved by the members of all the temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America. There's no playing around here, and not to be mean or, disrespectful to people who don't understand it or don't agree, but this is what we hold to because this is law for us. These laws are to be strictly preserved by the members of all the temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that they will learn to open their meeting and guide it according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And why would the prophet give us these 5 high divine principles to conduct our everyday conduct, to conduct everything in our life by? Because he's truly returning us to the ways of our forefathers who are benevolent, who are the creators of civilization, right? So we conduct everything off of these divine principles. And if we really trust our prophet and come in and do this, eventually we will teach the world and lead the world, because the world will see that we're not playing with this, right? That we are benevolent, that we truly live off the highest principles known to man. And then they will believe also that we are who our ancient forefathers were, that we are still that today without doubt or contradiction. They're going to see it, not by our words, by our actions, how we're actually living in society. They will be able to see our towns, our cities, and see that it's clean, that you can live somewhere without it being dirty and polluted, without having drugs and all of these low-level things occurring, right? They're going to see it in us because we're going to come in and we're going to strictly preserve these laws from our holy and divine prophet. That's why you're here today, Moors. It's not just a history lesson to learn about how great we were or how great, our ancestors were at one time, right? Yes, learning the truth about us should be amazing and be motivation for us to come back in to come back into that old time religion, right? But this is also within this Quran, this is also motivation to follow these divine steps the prophet gives for us to work on our lower urges, the desires to do things that are actually harming us, that are actually of no good to us, right? And so let's go back into this now. Remember, we're speaking about how the Moroccan Empire, right? Question 32, where's the Moroccan Empire? Northwest Amexem. What is the modern name for Amexem? Africa. So remember, the prophet returning this pre-flood, antediluvian term to us of Amexem. When you go into the Quran questionnaire in question 85, it says, name some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of Northwest. Let's get that up on the screen. It says, name some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of Northwest by the European nations in 1774, Negro, black, colored, and Ethiopian. Now we know he's talking about us, obviously, but he just says the reason why he just says Moors of Northwest by the European nations is because he's letting us know in question 32, the only other time it mentions Northwest is when it's talking about Northwest what? Like if you say something, you don't have to say the whole thing again. You can just allude to it. So when he's saying in 32, where's the Moroccan Empire? And he says northwest of Amexem, and we know the modern name for Amexem is Africa. So he says the Moroccan Empire is in northwest of Amexem. And then in question 85, he's saying name some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of northwest. We know he's talking about northwest of Amexem, right? You don't have to keep saying the whole thing over and over again. So he just says northwest this time. And we know he's talking about us, the Negro, black, colored Ethiopian. We got those slave marks put upon us. Okay. And so we know also by connecting the dots that the Moroccan Empire is in northwest of Amexem. It's right here where we're at, right here where we stand. This is where the Moroccan Empire is, whether people believe it or not. Now we're going to have to prove it through our actions, but it's right here. Okay. And so when it's saying in verse 6 and 47 that the Moabs from the land of Moab who received permissions from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa. Okay, on one hand, yeah, that's talking about northwest Africa, but he lets you know that it extended all the way over here. So North America is northwest Africa or northwest of Amexem, since we have the true and divine name. All right. And so the prophet is talking about us right here. And he's letting it be known that the present day Moroccan Empire, we are the founders and true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire right here, right now. The thing that happened is we fell through infighting. We took on those slave labels that disconnected us from that. But we are still the founders and the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. And that's why the prophet was flying the Moorish flag with the 5-pointed green star 30 years before this nation of Morocco started flying that flag. 30 whole years before they were able to fly that flag. All right. And you have to think like many of these modern nation states in Africa recently, like within the last 100 years or so, got their independence from the various colonial powers, the European states, right? Morocco was under France. They were under Spain. They weren't flying that flag. The prophet was flying it in 1928, 1929, right? So we are the founders and the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire right here, right now. But with this knowledge, with this understanding, we can actually trace ourselves throughout history without a doubt or contradiction. And I'm just going to show a few things on that. I don't want to take up too much time, but this is an understanding that is known by the scholars, various scholars of the world, but it's hidden to us. But once we know who we are, it can't be hidden anymore, right? So they would refer to this pre-flood civilization as Atlantis, right? You have the words Atlas and Atlantic, right? These two words, they'll say the Atlas Mountains, which are in northwest Africa, right? They say Atlas is holding up the globe, holding up the world. And then you have the Atlantic Ocean. And this book is Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, is written by Ignatius Donnelly, who was, I believe he was a senator at the time, right? I know he was a statesman, like he was a lawmaker. But he's letting it be known that Atlas and Atlantic don't have any etymological, links together that's understood from a European perspective. They know that those words come from the old world, just like the word Amexem, returned to us by our prophet, right? There was actually a city named Atlan that existed right here in the Americas when Columbus came over. Right nowadays, it's called Akla. It's like a small, unimportant town. But the name was over here, right? We have these stories. They had a story from Plato speaking about Atlantis. I was in the Atlantic Ocean. There was a great cataclysm that happened. They called the deluge. Within a couple of hours, this civilization was wiped out, sunk beneath the ocean. Okay. We actually have our own history that's given to us by divine order, returned to us by the prophet that ties us back into this. Okay. So you do have the chain with the Atlas Mountains, right? Which are connected to that because you have the ancient Berber tribes over there that actually have history tying them back in to an ancient civilization that disappeared, right? They have that physical history. But then also, as the prophet said, that our people migrated here before that earthquake, this great earthquake, which caused the Atlantic Ocean. You also have several things, several artifacts and things found here that tie us into that. Now, the brother Colbay was speaking about the Phoenicians. There's several Phoenician artifacts found here throughout North America, Central America, even all the way through South America, right? All the way down to Brazil and Argentina. Phoenician artifacts, which the Phoenicians, once again, you would be going back to that area that they called Canaan. Okay. So once again, you will be talking about our ancestors, and their artifacts were found over here. These are just some sculptures that were found in Mexico where the people or the people depicted had obvious what they would call African features, right? People even having long beards, which couldn't have been the people that are there now, where in many cases, a lot of those people don't even grow long beards like that, right? And then especially being tall, having thick lips, curly hair. Some of these sculptures and statues actually have like curly, woolly hair, have braids and things of that nature. Just like this one, it says this was seen over the entrance to one of these palaces, right? And they got this guy here. He's got some kind of headdress with big lips and just one example, right? It says it was found in the court of the palace of Palenque, and the person that saw it said the face is strongly Ethiopian. Those are just some examples. If anybody would like to see any more about this, I'll be talking on the Moors in America podcast with the Dr. Clyde Winters. He wrote the book, The Mende in the Ancient Americas and Atlantis in Mexico. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but also even Dr. Even Van Sertima, who passed away, he wrote about this in depth, right? But going back to what the ancient people here in the Americas, like Central America, the Popol Vuh, which is like one of the ancient scrolls that didn't get destroyed. And they're talking about the creation of the first men in the region of the rising sun, which would be in the east. And they have the story about those people from the east came here, created civilization. They all spoke one language, and to have lived together in great peace. It says, black and white men together. There they awaited the rising of the sun, prayed to the heart of heaven. How did the red men of Central America know anything about black men and white men? All right. And so they were speaking about living in the land, coming from the east, inhabiting here, bringing civilization here, right? And having one language. And then it's saying their leader, Balaam Kitse, which even that title, Balaam, which this leader would have had, Balaam is tied to the word Baal. You had the Phoenician deities, El and Bay, or El and Baal. These are Phoenician deities. And you have that linguistic link over here in Central America with the deities El and Baal, which we have on our last name. These are our titles that we add to our surname of El and Bay. So you had the El and Bays over here in ancient Central America. And the people who had the L's and Bays weren't just like regular people. They were leaders. They were the nobility. And so this is what I'm saying. The prophet is reconnecting us back to that. And they're coming over here with one language. And they came over so long ago. They came before the continents broke up. This is just explaining how they came under their leader. They migrated. They had one language, how their language became confounded. This is all described in the Popol Vuh. Their language became broken up into dialects. The consequences of separation. Some of the people went to the east. Many came hither to Guatemala. That's in the Popol Vuh. They actually have stories that were written down describing what happened. Right? There's some other examples too. I showed this before. Peter Tompkins' book, Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids, where they actually have these stories that tell what happened from an eyewitness perspective that they passed down. They had one leader named Votan, who appeared from the Atlantic, right? in the Quiche language, right? They had written the original book that had been burned by this bishop that was there, a Christian bishop in 1691, but he copied parts of it. So they talked about this leader Votan, who set out from the east. It was a transatlantic voyage of him coming over here, described having arrived, wearing long robes, exchanged ideas and customs with the natives, who submitted to his rule and who gave to the strangers their daughters in marriage. This is real. And this is speaking about us, right? The early scientists and anthropologists described how they believed or how they understood that the Americas were originally colonized by the Carthaginians, which is the Phoenicians, right? Which is once again speaking about us. This is one example, Rasur de Beaubourg, but they're going through the artifacts and they're making the connection to the people here in the Americas having Carthaginian or Phoenician origins, right? So that's understood. And I'm not gonna go on and on. There's another book called the Toronto Codex, speaks about you have history being recorded from pre-flood civilizations where they actually speak about, and the codex is being read from right to left, right? It's an ancient scroll, and it actually describes what they would call the the cataclysms. They actually describe it. It's two parts. It's the Troano, and that in that Troano Codex, it here says it placed the disappearance of the Atlantic continent in the year 9,937 BC. They got it down to the dates, and they actually describe some land sinking beneath the water, some rising above it, and it's no joke. So this has been recorded throughout history, and it's specifically speaking about our people, but without this connection to our divine creed, which was returned to us. Remember, what did the prophet say about Islamism? Is that the new or the old time religion? Is it the new or the old time religion, people? It's that old time religion. So the prophet's returning us to something that is ancient, truly ancient. And he's uplifting us by teaching us to be ourselves. So by us coming in and getting this Islamism, by you holding to the holy day, being here on the Sunday school, and he's saying from out of our Sunday schools come the guiders of our nations, it's because you come in, you know who you are, you're standing on that solid rock of salvation, and now we can go out into the world and actually build our nation up, right? And now show the world who we truly are, because it's time, right? So Islamism is that old time religion. The prophet's not getting us here and saying, oh, you got to copy these people, copy that people, right? If the prophet said it's Islamism, that's what it is. Our flag is over 10,000 years old. So he's truly connecting us to that. And remember that date that I just read on that Troano manuscript, where these are the ancient Central Americans saying that this cataclysm happened in 9,937 BC. Okay? So we talking about like 10, 11,000 years ago. And our flag is over 10,000 years. The prophet connected us back to that more. So really, truly know who you are. And when he's telling us that our ancestors are able to create these rivers, right? These are the people who created civilization. Hopefully that's understood, Morris. I'm gonna go ahead and yield the floor. I will open questions up. If anyone has any questions before we go into the closing of the meeting, feel free to speak now. Islam. All right. Okay. Oh, Islam. Was somebody just speaking? Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, I want to announce without further ado, we're going to go into the closing of the meeting. We already read our writs and divine warnings, so I just want to put out that call for collections for anyone who is moved to assist us in this great work of uplifting fallen humanity. Please feel free to send us a donation. Just go to moorishamericans.com. Once at moorishamericans.com, you can send a donation. Just go to the bottom of the screen and use that donate button to send a donation to the temple. You can also use that QR code. All right. And that's at moorishamericans.com. Islam. And also, if there are any Moors who feel compelled to claim their nationality that are ready to come in and come into their divine creed, feel free to reach out to us. You can use the website also to contact us. And on that note, though, let's go ahead and close out. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I want to ask everyone, if you're able to rise and face the east for the closing prayer. You do not need to repeat after me. Allah bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers' divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name and the seven Elohim. Amen. Islam Moors, this meeting is now adjourned. Peace and love.
Islam, family, peace and love.
Peace and love.
Islam.